In the late 1980s, a young student activist in Bhutan named Bishwa Chhetri made a stand for his cultural rights. That single fight would turn him into one of the nation's very first political prisoners. This is his story, a story of defiance, incredible survival, and the absolute resilience of the human spirit. And this one sentence, wow, spoken by Bishwa just moments before he was captured, it tells you everything you need to know. See, this wasn't about trying to escape. It was about making his capture mean something. It was a deliberate sacrifice, a last-ditch effort to make sure his voice was heard by the most powerful person in the country. So to really get why he made that choice, you have to understand what was going on at the time. The late 1980s in Bhutan, well, the government was pushing a policy of cultural uniformity, basically a crackdown on cultural differences. By October of '89, those tensions just exploded into student protests. And then, just a month later, Bishwa Chhetri was arrested. And believe it or not, it all started with a festival. The flashpoint for all of this was Sheruptsi College, Bhutan's top university. And the issue wasn't some big political rally. Nope, it was a religious festival, Durga Puja. The students wanted to celebrate their culture, but the government had very different ideas. And that turned a simple celebration into a huge political standoff. Okay, check this out. The government's rules were incredibly strict. They said everyone had to wear the national dress. The whole festival had to be over in just 2 hours. And get this, no statues and no religious hymns. The students' response? It was an act of complete and total defiance. They didn't celebrate for 2 hours. They celebrated for 3 whole days, brought in a huge statue, and held a full procession with all the hymns. So on that third day, as they began their procession down to a river, their peaceful celebration came to a really violent end. They were attacked by pro-government students, and the police, they just stood by, cameras out, documenting the whole thing. A line had definitely been crossed. So right in the middle of all this rising tension, Bishwa comes back to campus. But he's not empty-handed. He's carrying banned literature, pamphlets called Bhutan Wants Justice. He was basically shifting from just being part of a cultural protest to actively distributing forbidden material. After that, the situation on campus just deteriorated and fast. As Bishwa was handing out these pamphlets, the protest leaders were dragged into the college playground and beaten publicly by pro-government students. It got so dangerous that 5 of the main targets had to flee the college in the middle of the night, literally running for their lives. The campus wasn't safe for anyone anymore. And then, the moment he must have known was coming finally arrived. On November 5th, a classmate ran up to him with a frantic warning. "The police are here. They're looking for you. You have to run." And in that split second, he had a choice to make. Run and hide, or stay and face whatever came next. He chose not to run. Instead, he just calmly stated his belief. At that moment, he still had this sliver of hope that if he could just get their message to the king, maybe things could change. He truly believed getting arrested was the only way to make that happen. The arrest itself was a complete deception. He was called to the principal's office, but when he walked in, the room was full of plainclothes police. They told him he was just being taken to the Capitol as a witness. But when he stood up to go get his things, the entire room stood up with him. That's when the chilling reality of what was happening really sank in. After an interrogation, they drove him into the night. He had no idea where he was going. He was handed over from the police to the army and taken to this secret unknown place, a dreaded prison called Rabuna. It was a place designed to make people just disappear. He would spend the next 25 months in government custody. 25 months. Just let that sink in. Over 2 years of his young life, just gone. And the vast, vast majority of that time was spent in the most psychologically brutal way imaginable, almost total solitary confinement. Imagine this. Your whole world shrinks to a tiny 10 by 8 foot cell with a dirt floor. You're allowed out for just 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes to empty your toilet bucket. The other 23 and a half hours locked in darkness with a single light bulb aimed right at your face and guards constantly peering at you through a peephole. It was a routine designed to completely break a person. But in this place of total isolation, designed to crush the human spirit, something absolutely remarkable happened. Bishwa found out he wasn't alone. There were 6 other political prisoners there, each in their own cell. And together, they figured out this ingenious way to fight back. I mean, think about it. How do you keep yourself sane? How do you check on your friends when you are forbidden to speak, when even the guards refuse to talk to you? Well, you get creative. You invent a whole new language. Their solution was just brilliant. The 7 of them became the 7 colors of the rainbow, Vib Jor. Bishwa was prisoner number 1, so he became Baiguni, or violet. Others were Haryu, for green, or Rate, for red. They would sing folk songs, and they'd weave these code names into the lyrics. They could ask, "How is Rate today?" or say, "We haven't heard from Haryu." It was this secret code of hope, sung right through the prison walls. Then, after those 25 long months, in December of 1991, Bishwa was suddenly let go. But walking out of those prison gates, that wasn't a simple return to freedom. The world he stepped back into was not the one he had left behind.
See, his release was conditional. He was forced to sign this document, pledging his absolute allegiance to the king, country, and kingdom. The message was crystal clear. Your freedom is on loan, and we can take it back anytime. It all depended on his silence and his compliance.
And the reality he faced was just bleak. He didn't even know where his parents were. His old friends, the ones who had stood beside him, were now terrified to even talk to him. His own uncle, a high-ranking official, was demoted just for being related to him. He was followed everywhere he went, basically a prisoner in his own city. But despite all the hardship, all the heartbreak, that experience in that tiny dark cell didn't break Bishwa, not at all. In fact, it forged him. It set the entire course for the rest of his life. And you don't have to take my word for it. In his own words, looking back, he says he takes pride in it. He calls it a watershed moment. The suffering was unimaginable, but he understood the sacrifice and found this profound purpose in what he'd gone through. It's what turned him from a student into a lifelong activist. He pretty quickly realized that real freedom, real safety, it was just impossible for him inside Bhutan. So he made the incredibly difficult decision to leave his home. He escaped the country so he could continue his fight for human rights and justice from the outside. Bishwa's story really leaves us with a heavy question, doesn't it? For him, the price of having a voice was his youth, his freedom, and ultimately his home. It kind of forces all of us to think, what is the real price of speaking up? We were able to put this explainer together thanks to the personal testimony of Bishwa Chhetri himself, which was documented in Unmasked episode number 2, as well as Robin Gurung's video series.